Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall. Welcome back, Adam Martin, and welcome back a very familiar face. You may have seen him on our deep dive of the NFC West, but we're moving to the other side of the country this time. We thought, let's reinforce our knowledge of the NFC East with a true patron of the NFC East, in Andrew, who is a New York Giants fan, also part of the duo that does our Franchise Tag College show with Alex and also our Franchise Tag betting show alongside Adam, which both are coming back out very, very soon for the start of the NFL season and the college season. So make sure you go and check that out. Thank you for watching the deep dive videos that we've done so far. Like I said, we are now turning our attention to the East. And, it was a division that saw two teams go through to the playoffs last season. That was the Philadelphia Eagles, our subsequent Super Bowl winning champions. I think that will always make Andrew's ears bleed for as long as time will tell. And they went 14-3. We had Washington Commanders go 12-5. The Dallas Cowboys go 7-10. And Andrew's New York Giants going 3-14. A division that divides people's opinion in terms of how good these teams are and whether they are going to be jumping to a television to go and watch them. Obviously, the Commanders had a rise to fame last season. The Eagles obviously played incredibly well, but then the other two teams were not so enjoyable to watch. We're going to start with our Super Bowl champions for this episode, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles. Brought in Azeez Ojulari from their divisional rivals, Giants, Josh Uche as well, Adoree Jackson, AJ Dillon, Avery Williams, Harrison Bryant. Did lose a few guys in their defense, though. Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, Darius Slay, notably. Isaiah Rodgers, Avante Maddox. He also lost Kenneth Gainwell, Darius Slay. And we've been incredibly active in the offseason in terms of trades. They traded Kenny Pickett to the Browns and received Dorian Thompson-Robinson back as well as picks. They traded CJ Gardner-Johnson to the Texans for Kenyon Green and picks as well. Made numerous draft picks, as Harry Roseman does. He's become incredibly famous for trading within the draft and prior to the draft and a post-draft as well. They traded Bryce Huff to the 49ers, traded Thomas Booker to the Raiders for Jacorian Bennett. They also recently traded for Harrison Bryant. They traded Harrison Bryant away after getting him in to the Texans for John Mechie, and there was picks involved in that as well. Obviously, being the Super Bowl champions, they had a very low pick within the first round, the 31st pick. Jihad Campbell from Alabama they took there. They took Andrew Makuba in the second round, the safety out of Texas. Took Carl McCord, quarterback out of Syracuse as well as a lot of other picks within the whole of the draft. Didn't have a third round pick, but a lot of sixth round picks and no seventh. Andrew, I'm going to start with you, obviously, because you're going to really enjoy talking about this subject. The Eagles now, massive target on their back, Super Bowl champions, won it in incredible fashion in New Orleans. Obviously, myself, Sky, Gareth were there to watch that happen. Can they do it again? Is this team going to be just as dominant again as they were in last season?
Well, not a lot's really changed on their team, really. I know they've lost a few defensive players that have merit that helped them down that stretch, but they've kept the core. Their rookies and youngsters are only just getting, into their prime now. So, they're all firing on all cylinders. So there's not a lot really to say. They can't do it again. The only thing I will say that might stop them doing it again is their schedule is a lot harder than last year. So I don't think they will be able to rely massively on just the run game alone. I think their schedule was so easy last year that they could just run the ball, defense play well, and not really have to throw the ball that much. I think this year they might have to throw a bit more. They're going to be in a few tighter games. And obviously they've got a new offensive coordinator as well, which is something that's different in their team. So I think they've got the team to be able to go and do it again. But I don't think it's going to be as easy a route to the final as what it was.
How impressed, Adam, have you been with the fact that they have just been able to reinforce and the extended period of time that they've been able to do this? They've been very, very astute with their drafting. They've been very astute with the guys that they've brought in. they've done trades. They've not been afraid. They've been fearless in that. And we know Harry Roseman's really, he's the guy for for moving around, and usually it seems like coming out on the winning side of these trades. But I'm impressed they've been with a team that they've just been constantly been able to reinforce for a long time.
Yeah, it is impressive how they've managed to do it. It is about constantly trading. It is also about the people that you do sign up. You put on a load of void years on the back of their contract, which then means you can push the money across. And I think the reason that the Eagles have done it so successfully is that they're probably the first team to really embrace that and really go compared to other teams. There's still a lot of teams out there that don't do it as much, whereas for the Eagles have really gone and done it, really pushed out loads of void years, spread the money across. At some point, in theory, you're going to have to pay up. But if the TV money keeps going up, then you won't. And that is how they're kind of getting around it. And it's almost like they're expecting the cap to keep going up and up and up. And so it will work. So these guys that they've invested in, as long as they don't fall off a cliff, then they've got themselves a really good squad here. And that's kind of, they've won through accountancy to a certain extent. That's what they've done. It's like they've done that. And you need to be able to have an owner that has plenty of readily available cash to be able to do that as well. And they've got that with Jeffrey Laurie. So it kind of all works as a combination. But it's impressive because they're basically the first ones to really properly embrace it and go for it completely. Whereas for other teams have kind of dipped their toe in a bit and sort of done it a little bit. This team has properly done it. So that's why it's impressive. I kind of agree with Andrew when it comes to the team. I don't think much has changed really here. They have lost some important players on the defense, and I do think Mekhi Becton was decent for them on the O-line as well. So losing him, I think, could be a loss. I don't really feel like they have bought players in that are of the same level as what they've lost. So I do think there is a little bit of a drop there. And obviously the schedule is harder. Having said all that, I just think their system is very, very good, and that they've got these core players that are very, very talented on the offense. They've got the same again on the defense, arguably better on the defense than the offense. And I think it's just going to be very, very difficult to stop them. That doesn't mean that they're going to win the Super Bowl, because obviously, as we know, once you get to the playoffs, anything can happen. But I think it does mean that they've done everything they can to put themselves in the position to win the Super Bowl again. And they have to look at it as a form of they're trying to become a dynasty now. That's what they're looking at trying to become. And they're trying to win it by taking it away from the team that we consider the dynasty of now, sort of thing, in the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think that's kind of where they're at. And it's very, very difficult to go back to back, but they've got a very good chance of doing it.
I think if there's one team where you go, you've just lost two high-end players in terms of Milton Williams and Josh Sweat, who, let's really be frank about this, were only suddenly seen as big names because they had a sublime Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We weren't talking about Milton Williams and Josh Sweat in the season. No one was going.
I think we were talking about Josh Sweat, weren't we? He was big all year.
He was doing well, but I don't think we were going like Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Jared Verse.
No, it was Zach Bourne, wasn't it? It was the big news, wasn't it, for them? And they kept all of it.
They're good, and obviously they really balled out in the Super Bowl, but a lot of players did really well in the Super Bowl. So if there was one team that was to lose important players, starters, I think it is this team. And you said it's interesting about that they've really embraced how the style of how they run their organization. The only one you could sort of compare it to, with terms of making splashy moves or going against the grain of what the league is doing, was the Rams. And it actually didn't. It worked out for a Super Bowl, and suddenly it didn't. They were giving away loads of picks to get stars in, whereas this team doesn't give away picks to bring stars in. It gives away picks to just reinforce it, to get more draft picks, to move it on, to be able to make that movement in the draft. I think that's what's really key to their organization, is they get the picks to then be able to move around the board in any way they see fit, whether that go up or down. And it just then allows you the leverage to go and get the guys that you truly, really, really want, doesn't it? Like, I don't know why teams don't do that as much, I suppose. Maybe because if everyone did it, then it would be completely pointless, wouldn't it, really?
I think it's quite complicated to do that. And I think you have to kind of look at it in a different way to what normal NFL football has been for many years. Like I say, it's not about the obvious things. It is about accountancy. It's about having void years. It's about doing sort of the more statistical approach of things, I suppose. And I think that although analytics is something that a lot of NFL teams obviously use when it comes to the game, I don't know how much they use that when it comes to, the front office and doing that sort of thing. So I do feel like that they do sort of like look at it from a different point of view. As I said, I think you need to have a cash rich owner in order to be able to do it. And that does take out a fair few teams, because there's a lot of them that don't have that, just the ability to be able to pay someone and guarantee them like 100 million and have that cash to go, yeah, there you go. I mean, didn't Jeffrey Laurie sell like 8% of the Eagles for like an insane amount of money? And then obviously that money is now being used by him to do these, to be able to just literally throw cash at these guys. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with what he's doing, but it's not something that everyone can do. I mean, the Bengals get a lot of criticism, don't they, for not signing their players. But the fact is like, yes, the owner is wealthy, but he doesn't have loads of cash that he's got readily available to be able to do that sort of thing. So I think there is a bit of that in it. And that's where they are just sort of like, the front office compared to other front offices are playing at a different level compared to some of the others. And I think it makes a big difference.
I think they've got a really good locker room as well. Now, Adam says like, accountancy and, things like that. But when you look at free agents that they bring in as well, they're usually quite big names, and they usually go there. And then once they're there for a little time, if it's a year or so or whatever, once they leave, you see people coming in from the same team to go there. So I think they must have a really good locker room and an atmosphere, and they've got their personnel right as well, because it feels like people want to go there. Now, I know obviously if you go there, you're in with a chance of a Super Bowl, but it just strikes me, they've picked up Azeez Ojulari and Saquon and people that from the Giants were rivals, and they've gone, come over, lads. It's good here. Like, the team is good. It's nice. The atmosphere is good. So I think there's an area of that they've got right as well, because there is organizations where you've got players go in, we'll talk about a team later on in this, I'm sure, where players are going, I don't want to be here. Like, it's not great. Like, I'm not treated well. Like, I want to go somewhere else. And there's some good teams that do lose players because of that, and they don't. So there's more than just accountancy with them for me.
Yeah, they also don't worry about if players have got problems. When you think about Jalen Carter and everything during that draft, it doesn't bother them. They know they've got the veterans in there, and they had Fletcher Cox there, didn't they, at the time, to sort them out and not have a problem with that. And now you don't hear any problems from Jalen Carter. But there were teams that were put off.
To build on that, I think what I never hear, this has sort of struck me with lightning out of nowhere, and I don't think you ever hear this in the media. It was your point of saying they're defeating the dynasty. The dynasty is seen as the Chiefs. However, the Eagles have been putting up a pretty good dynasty of their own. They have been really competitive now for the last few years. And we've almost got, the Eagles have become this counterculture dynasty. And it's like you've got the Chiefs, the red, the bright red, the loud fans, the Taylor Swift, the Travis Kelce, the Pat Mahomes, the relaxed, the flashy, the crazy movement that Mahomes can do with his arm with the ball, and it's all very digestible, isn't it? But then you have the counterculture Eagles, the no one likes us, we're a gritty city. We'll beat you in the mud. We'll spit on your face and kick you down when you're down. Sort of like, they've got the angry coach, the arguments on the sideline. It's like the two of the greatest going against each other, and one of them is the one that is on the front of the newspaper saying how amazing he is, and the one that's in the back page is talking about, yeah, they're really good, but we don't want to put them on the front page of the news. You know, they're very counterculture, and they're very angry, and they're very in your face. And actually, it's complete pleasure to have that sort of butting of two very different philosophies very consistently year after year. And I think that's what makes NFL really, really fun. And I think that's why people like the Eagles a lot, and want them to do well for a long time, because they are sort of they're the Shrek to Prince Charming in a way, aren't they? You know what I mean? They're the people they're the team that people want to root for. Have you ever dreamed of managing your favorite pro football team? Do you watch your team and think the GM got it wrong again? Do you think you could do better? Here's your chance to prove it. Introducing Ultra GM, a revolutionary new take on fantasy football that makes you the general manager of your favorite team. Start with the team's full roster and build it through the draft, free agency, trades, and even the practice squad to create your ideal team. No fantasy football platform or GM simulator has ever provided the degree of realism and engagement that Ultra GM offers. And none has ever given you the opportunity to manage the team that you love and care for most. Compete against family, friends, and even your team's real GM to see who is the Ultra GM. You think you can do better than your team's GM? Visit ultragm.com to prove it. Let's move on to a team that I think people are struggling to root for within the most recent times, and that is the Dallas Cowboys. They've brought in Dante Fowler, Javonte Williams, Solomon Thomas, Peyton Turner, re-signed Israel Mukawamu, Brian Anger. They brought in Miles Sanders as well. They did lose to Marcus Lawrence, Jordan Lewis, Brandon Cooks, Cooper Rush, Rico Dowdle, Trey Lance. That's the big shout out for Sky, just in case he's watching this. We remember how much you love Trey Lance. Did a fair bit of trading within the draft, but then they did do some player trades as well. They traded in for Kyer Elam, Kenneth Murray, Joe Milton. They also brought in George Pickens, obviously, from the Steelers, with picks all involved there. And then when you look at their draft, they took Tyler Booker with the 12th pick from Alabama, defensive lineman. I'm going to smash this first time, but Donovan Ezaraku, bang, smashed it. I've no problems in these deep dives with names. I've been very, very consistent. Boston College defensive end. Brought in Savone Revel in the 3rd round, cornerback out of East Carolina. Jaden Blue, the running back out of Texas, in the 5th round. They make all these moves, Adam. They've signed these players. They've traded. They've improved, some may say. And yet, is it just the same old Dallas Cowboys?
Well, yeah, because that's what the Dallas Cowboys are. It always is the same old Dallas Cowboys. Look, I think the positives, I would say, is that I think they had a good draft. I do think they drafted quite a few decent players. I like Tyler Booker. I think he'll be a good guard. Donovan Ezaraku, I think, is potentially a very good edge rusher who was being touted as a potential 1st-round pick. So the fact they got him in the 2nd's good. Siobhan Ravel, I don't mind at corner. I think there are better ones, but I think that he can do a job for them. And I think that Jaden Blue could be good at running back for them. After that, it did kind of drop off a little bit, but you're talking like late round picks, so it's not too bad. So I think that the players that they picked were all right when it comes to that. And I think looking back on it now, we were all going they're going wide receiver. Obviously, they traded for George Pickens, so that was kind of like their wide receiver too. So you can kind of see why they've done what they've done during the draft, and I think they did okay. In free agency, I don't really feel like they added anyone that's really going to move the needle for them at all. It kind of felt like they're all okay, but then the guys they lost were okay, and it just doesn't feel like much has changed. So I think when you look at it from that point of view, there's potential for the future with some of these younger guys, but nothing fantastic for now. They've put Brian Schottenheimer in as head coach, which obviously internal promotion, not great, not something that you feel like is necessarily going to work amazingly. The offensive coordinator, Clayton Adams, has come from the Cardinals, and he was the offensive line coach, which doesn't really thrill you with a lot of confidence, I have to say, from what the Cardinals were like over the last few years. And then Matt Eberflus, obviously coming from the Bears, who I think could be a decent defensive coordinator. I think he's shown before he's okay as a DC. I think they want to be tougher. I think when you look at the type of people that they drafted and who they've brought in, it's about being tougher on the lines, I think is what they're trying to achieve. And overall, I think that this season, they have to look at it as though it's about being competitive. But I have to say, I think there's a very, very strong chance that this team could completely capitulate and fall away, because when you actually look at that roster, you sort of think Dak is getting older and is always getting injured. CeeDee Lamb is obviously great. Is Pickens fantastic? I think he could be a decent wide receiver too, but I wouldn't get too excited about him. The O-line, I think, has improved slightly with Tyler Booker coming in, but not amazingly. And the defense was pretty poor, especially against the run, yeah, I think that Matt Eberflus might be able to help it out, but I don't think it's going to be a great. I kind of worry for him. And also, I think the owner's only interested in making money as well, which doesn't help.
Speaking of crazy Jerry, I mean, he sits there in his white temple in Dallas, Andrew. It's bizarre, isn't it? It's just such a show now with him and how that organization works. And I'm afraid we've talked about it in a lot of these deep dives. I think it's a joke that the Steelers maybe take the piss out of someone like the Jets for being a badly run organization, when I think we're becoming a very bad run organization now. And I think the Cowboys are now within that as well. I think they have become a really badly run organization. I mean, this Micah Parsons stuff as well, which we haven't touched on either. I mean, the fact they got rid of Mike McCarthy, who I admit wasn't, for me, an incredible head coach, but, ex-Super Bowl winner. They've promoted someone in-house in Brian Schottenheimer. They've not sorted out Micah Parsons. They've been throwing contracts here, left, right, and center. We still don't really know what we're having with Dak Prescott. I mean, it's a mess.
It is a mess. And I think Jerry needs to maybe go on a trip with Aaron Rodgers and go to a dark retreat and sit there and realize that he's old now. He's not the young guy that he was when he first started. He obviously thinks that he knows a bit about football and can run the Dallas Cowboys that way. But I think it's time that he goes, you know what? I'm out of it now, and I'm not on the ball like I used to be. And I should maybe let some of the kids give it a go, maybe, or someone else, take that.
He bloody has all the kids in there. They all bloody do everything. They're all on the board or here, that, and the other with what they do.
But yeah, like, they're not listening to the fans. That is bizarre. They're hiring head coaches that not a single person had on their board to even interview as a head coach. When they're making draft picks, they're not looking at positional needs. They're just kind of like whatever Jerry wants sort of thing. And then he's sitting there rubbing his hands going, yeah, cheer me. And we're kind of going like, well, the fans are asking for this. And you haven't, delivered over the last how many years now. And why not just give them something to grasp onto? You can't... You've got your best player lying on a table in preseason, sort of not even caring, saying, I don't want to be here. He's got, what other what other owner has their own podcast and leaks everything to everyone as well? It's just,
it's
you've
so
got to be worried about
ridiculous,
it. Adams, you said at the start, is it just same old Cowboys? I don't think it's same old Cowboys, because same old Cowboys is, 12 wins, get to the playoffs, knocked out in the first round.
Sorry, I know what you're saying, but I think I was meaning as in last season.
Drama. Yeah, I think
What do you two make of this Micah Parsons thing? Do we think he's going to go? Do we generally think he's going to go?
No, I think eventually it will be done, because they're just going to keep him. And even if he doesn't, if he comes out and goes, "I'm not going to play,"
say about the organisation if they keep
oh
him.
yeah, but he does. Yeah, but they don't care. I think the thing is what everyone needs to understand. Like I say, it's all about making money. It's all about the revenue and the overall value. And he doesn't care if he loses out on like 100 million or whatever because he's paid Micah Parsons. This is exactly the same as Dak. It's exactly the same as Ezekiel Elliott was. He doesn't care as long as the overall value goes up, because the million is a long, long way. The 100 million is a long way away from the billion. And that's what it's about, isn't it, with Jerry? It's all about the overall value of it. So when you look at it, I don't think you'd find many teams where I think the owner would rather their team be in the headlines all the time because it keeps people looking at the Cowboys. For good or bad, all publicity is good publicity. That's the mantra that he runs with. And so I think he literally looks at it and goes, we are the top talking point of every show.
We've just said the Eagles have got a really good locker room environment. People want to go and play there.
But they want to win.
Free agency. No one's going to want to go to the Cowboys if they continue this. When you've got players.
The thing is that you have to, like, you always have to pay people. People will go for the money. It doesn't matter how bad they are. You will always get people will want to go and play for America's team, and they'll want to go and earn loads of money.
I think it suited George Pickens to the ground being traded there. I mean, I know a lot of these trades, the player has absolutely zero involvement in it, but I'm sorry, when everyone was saying when he got traded there, I was very like, fine. I'm absolutely okay with it. You've just got a very bang average receiver in my book, to be honest with you. You've got someone who could be 1 week he's making a one-handed catch.
They've got a problem child as well, haven't they? He causes issues.
Yeah, exactly. And
Mike Tomlin gets out on people at the right time. We know that. Yeah. He always gets rid of people at the right time. So if you got rid of him, why would you pick him up?
What was the biggest thing that we were absolutely hitting the table about last year? They can't run the ball.
Run the ball. If you can't run the ball, Dak's no good.
And they brought Javonte Williams in, who has been a very bang average running back, though someone who I actually really like. I did really like him at Denver. Jadon Blue, you can say to the hilltops that Jadon Blue might be a success. Going to the Dallas Cowboys, I don't think he will be, to be honest.
He wasn't incredible at college. He was good. He caught some good passes on the TV. I'll tell you that.
And you brought in Phil Martha, who I don't know nothing about. You then got Miles Sanders, who's been a journey child the last the two seasons, really 3 seasons. Then you've got Deuce Vaughn, who actually people were like, Deuce Vaughn's pretty all right. He could actually be like a double,
he's only 4 foot, so
but he can do like the Jalen Warren, Najee Harris thing that happened at Steelers, or what happens at a lot of places where he can be the guy. They did that with Pollard and Elliott, didn't they? They had that double tandem, and maybe that's what they're going to try and do. But like that, it's screaming. The holes are screaming there, and they said that they have a fitness issue as well. They don't seem to keep very fit. The guys they've brought in, you could go, they paid people too early. Trayvon Diggs is over the hill. Kenneth Murray, though, has now gone to 2 or 3 teams now. Kyer Elam never really proved it in Buffalo. Malik Hooker's an older guy. Israel Mukuama is also an older guy. Adigazua on the D-line, I do really, really like. Marshall Nealon's all right. Solomon Thomas is way over the hill.
Their defense wasn't great last year, and I don't think they've improved it. I think it's got worse.
Yeah, exactly. You've actually taken out. They actually got rid of what was like sort of the Dallas Cowboys leading guy, which was God. We've just talked about him a minute.
They haven't got DeMarcus Lawrence and
DeMarcus Lawrence, who was Mr. Dallas.
Are gone, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's not about the result.
Yeah, but we need to talk about the result because that's what we're talking about. We're gone away from.
But I'm just saying, from the point of view of the organisation, it's not about the result.
I think they're at serious danger of finishing last in this group. I think.
Oh, well,
their
like I said, I
O-line
think they've got a very good chance of
I would agree.
capitulating.
The O-line is very, very, very young, and the
Yeah.
left tackle has some big
It's
question
very
marks.
Tyler heavy as well. That's a bit weird,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Tyler, yeah.
What's that all about?
I think if that O-line gets overpowered and Jack hasn't got the mobility anymore and there is no run game, you can't get the ball to CD Lamb.
No.
So I think this team could get overpowered by some teams, and it's not going to go well for them.
Isn't in Blue Mountain State when they get that quarterback in Golden Arm, and he goes, "Haven't you? Isn't it the Tylers?" He goes, "Haven't you met the Tylers?" And it is 5 offensive linemen called Tyler.
I think so.
I'm sure it is. Haven't you met the wall of?
Well, they're making a film of it, so maybe the Dallas Cowboys are getting themselves involved in it.
Exactly.
One way for Jerry to make money.
Go on, Andrew. Let's talk about the main event being your New York Giants. Then we've made you wait long enough and talk about 2 of our divisional rivals. So we'll get onto these New York Giants then. Brought in Paulson Adebo, Javon Holland, Russell Wilson, obviously, Chauncey Golston, Roy Robertson, Harris Jameis Winston, Zach Pascal as well. He didn't lose really. Not many people really. Azeez Ojulari, Jason Pinnock, Dory Jackson, Isaiah Simmons, Drew Lock. Traded away technically didn't have Darren Waller, then got him back and traded him to the Dolphins. So you got a 7th round pick out of that. As 2026 6th round pick, sorry. And of course, drafting twice in the 1st round, Abdul Carter, defensive end out of Penn State at the 3rd pick, then traded back up into the 1st round to go and get Jackson Dart, quarterback out of Mississippi. Took Darius Alexander, a defensive tackle out of Toledo. Cam Scatterbu, running back out of Arizona State. Marcus Bowe, offensive lineman out of Purdue. And then 2 7th round picks as well. How pleased are you with your offseason and what this could mean for the New York Giants?
Yeah, I mean, as much as we slag off Joe Schoen quite a lot for what he's done in the past and how he came across on the Netflix documentary, it's he's had a couple of good drafts for me. The players are really hitting that have come in. The off season's been good. There's lots to be positive about. The ethos looks loads better in the team. And I follow them a lot on various different social media platforms, and the training camps and the buzz and the way the players talk, it all seems positive. I think all the moves have improved our team massively on last year. It looks like there's some direction with everything that we've done. I think the defense will be talking to possibly a top 10 defense this year. Loads to really, really like about it. We've got a really tough schedule. And I just hope that we can do enough to see if Schoen and Daboll are there next year to reap the benefits of what we think is good this year. It's a tough one for me because I think there is lots of improvement in this team. And we're going to be a load better than the embarrassment we were last year, and the fans might get back on board this year. And I think if we get fans back on board, that's a success for us this year. I think, when we're talking about other teams and where their success is going to come, and they're talking about playoffs or wild cards or championship games, ours isn't that, is it? We're not in that position at the moment. We were complete rebuild, and getting fans back on side and being competitive in games is where I want my team to be. And I think that we will do that this year.
Incredibly positive assessment of the New York Giants. I fear that you might be getting a negative assessment next, though.
Why are you doing it?
No, I thought you might not be as positive.
I actually don't think they could have done much better with what they've done.
Okay.
I think firstly, if you look at it from how they were last year, they were the worst team in the red zone in 2024. They only 43% of their plays became a touchdown. The top half of the league was 58, so it goes to show how poor they were. Good luck, Indianapolis. So
We didn't have Daniel Jones last year, mate.
who did you have? I can't remember.
We had Tommy DeVito, Drew
Tommy
Lock,
DeVito. Yeah, well, there you go.
anyone that turned up on the day.
Did you not have Daniel Jones at all?
Yeah, he started off there,
Yeah.
and then we got rid of him.
Look, I think that they didn't really lose many players, really. I mean, Azeez Ojulari, I think you could argue is a bit of a loss, but they've got a strong edge rusher room anyway, so yeah, so it didn't really matter. They brought in some good players. I thought that James Hudson is going to be good for the O-line. I think Javon Holland is a great pickup from the Dolphins. Paulson Adebo, as you said, is another good pickup from the Saints. So I think they've done pretty well there. The draft, I mean, the 2 7th-round picks, I don't really have much of an opinion on, but the rest, I don't think you could have done much better with what you had. I mean, I think Abdul Carter is going to be great. Jackson Dart has shown, hasn't he, in preseason that he's looking pretty good.
Yeah,
do not play him. Let him sit for a year.
Yeah. Well, I think we've already said we've named.
Great. I think he'll be really, really good for the future. I liked Darius Alexander when we spoke about him from Toledo. I think he's a little bit older than some of the other prospects, but I think he'll be really good. Cam Scatterbo is exactly the type of running back that you need. I think that he'll be good as well. Look,
Marcus and Bo's people.
Yeah,
are
Marcus and Bo's
he's the
decent.
winner of the draft so far. People are saying, like, how did he slip that far and get him? And then we've got Fedone as well, who's people are talking about.
I think, as you said, this is a year all about building blocks for this team and to be able to create a bit of a narrative that means that they are decent and competitive. I think the goal is to try and get above 500. I don't think they're going to do that. But I think that's probably what they're hoping to achieve. And this defense is ridiculous. Like, it could be very, very good. I don't hold out a lot of hope with Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston. I think there's a limit to what you're going to get from them. But when you're going from a 3-14 and the idea is to develop this quarterback for the future, I think if you can get 7 wins, 8 wins from this team, then you're going the right way. And I think that might just be enough for Brian Daboll to stay as head coach and be able to put the argument of going, look, we are developing, we are moving forward. And I think that's what it's all about for the Giants this year. I think, get after the quarterback and run the ball. That's what it's going to be a lot of with the Giants, I think. And they've got the players in there to be able to do that.
We've said in a lot of episodes, you can lose in the right way.
Yeah.
And if they lose in the right way this season, I think it points to a lot of positives for the New York Giants. I know it doesn't make sense, but I still think you get to, even if you get to losing in the right way, I think Daboll might be a little bit done, to be honest. I just think it might be that, like, right, well, now we've got the fresh team, we're going the right direction, but we've had these years now, and I don't know. I don't think Daboll's done anything highly wrong, but I don't know if he's done anything highly right all at the same time.
Well, he got us to the playoffs and won a game in the playoffs with Daniel Jones. I mean,
it's not gone the right way for him. It's not gone the right direction for him for any of the seasons. And I think if you had that coach in other teams, he would be gone by now, to be honest with you.
I don't know. It's odd one because he didn't pick Daniel Jones, he inherited him. Daniel Jones got him. He got Daniel Jones playoffs and won a game, and then still had to roll with him. We've never seen Daboll with Daboll's team. And we've seen Daboll's team in Buffalo and what it did. And it's really tough, Fred, because you got an organization that's just drafted Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart in the playoffs, yes, it's playoffs, has looked very mature and has looked very good. And he's managed to audible plays at the line and have success. They turned his helmet off during various parts of the game.
In the preseason,
game, and just he had to kind of do it himself. in those preseason games. So, and he's had success and he's looked good. So I think if you're the head coach, if you're the owner, and you've had how many years now? What of just since Coughlin left, of just hiring, firing, new GMs, new head coach, new GMs, new head coach, new regime. If we have a losing season and losing the right way, and Jackson Dart comes in at the end, and we have a top 10 defense, and Jackson Dart looks good at the back end of the year, I think it'd be very hard to say Daboll's out. When if you then have got to search for a new head coach, search for a new GM, you might go, you've got to try and find someone that is buying into Jackson Dart, because a new person will come in and be like, Jackson Dart's not our guy. We weren't hiring him in the draft. We want a new guy in the new draft, and you've got to start all over again. And I think John Mara is going to have a really tough job starting all over again. And I think that's why if we get 6, 7, 8 wins, there's a chance that you stick with these guys if Dart looks good at the end of it, because they're the ones that that John Mara knows are buying into him. So
I think one thing as well, which people again would have been maybe a bit funny on, was Russell Wilson. You guys getting Russell Wilson, starting Russell Wilson, when we actually just saw Russell Wilson do pretty okay in a team that has a really good defense and not a really electric offense. And I would argue that I mean, you've got Malik Neighbors, who's obviously an incredible wide receiver. We didn't have that we had George Pickens for Russell, had Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. You've got Tyron Tracy, and mixture of Devin Singletary and Cam Scatterboom. We'll see what happens with that. Theo Johnson's a fairly decent tight end, and an O-line that
it's better than yours.
Yeah, and
last year when we had our starting O-line, Daniel Jones had like ages in the pocket. There was clips put out there that I know Adam said, yeah, they're protecting Daniel Jones great, but it's not the run game's not. They're not doing that, so they'll be able to protect Russell Wilson. I think
your defense now, if it went out today and performed at the highest level, you could go, this is comparable to a Steelers defense. I think I can't do that at the minute because Paulson, Debo, Roy Robinson Jr., Abdul Carter,
it might not.
We haven't seen them play within your team yet, though. So it's still a good. I still think it's a good deal. I thought it was a good defense last year. So that's what I'm saying is, if you then reinforced it and you could call this defense now an equal to Steelers, if this defense is a top 5 defense, we've just seen what Russ can do with a top 10 marginal 5 defense in the Steelers with not a great offense and arguably a better offensive setup here in New York. So why couldn't you, if you'd brought in, I don't know, you'd brought in Kirk Cousins, maybe you could go, well, we've not, he's not been in great situations everywhere, but then he did all right in Minnesota. I don't know. I still think there's still something in the Russell Wilson juice to be able to happen there with that. And like you said, you've got that
stabilize. It'll stabilize and it'll do all right, and that's what we need. And he'll teach Jackson Dart.
Yeah. I mean, I frankly don't care about preseason. So if he's done well in preseason, it doesn't bother me at all. You've got to see him do it in the big league, and we'll just have to see what happens with that for sure. Let's go on to the last team of the NFC East, which is the Washington Commanders. I'll just get my notes back up after just reading Russell Wilson's name for about 10 times every time I get looking at it. So the Commanders, obviously, which I've said a lot. I've said the word obviously loads in this podcast, but they were incredible last season. They were one of the most fun teams to watch last season. They were so good. They've reinforced themselves with Javon Kinlaw, Von Miller, Jonathan Jones, Dietrich Wise. In fact, they've brought loads of people in. Actually, they went shopping, not paying that quarterback just yet allows you to go and do a lot of fun things. Re-signed Clelin Ferrell, Noah Igbenogany, bought in Nate Herbig, George Fant as well. Did lose Jonathan Allen, De'Ami Brown, Jeremy Chin, Dante Fowler, Olamide Zacchaeus as well. And then the draft, they went for their offensive lineman, Josh Connolly, at the 29th pick from Oregon, Trey Amos, the cornerback out of Mississippi, Jalen Lane, wide receiver out of Virginia Tech, and Actually, well, I wouldn't usually speak about these players, but the 7th round pick, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, the running back out of Arizona, has now been thrust into the spotlight, really, because they've just traded away Brian Robinson Jr. to the 49ers. Now looks like there's going to be a pairing of Austin Eckler and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt.
We like to call him Bill.
Say again?
We like to just call him Bill.
Bill?
Yeah, that's so apparently growing up as a kid, he looked like Little Bill, the cartoon character. So he goes by the name Bill. So you just, from now on, Bill.
Who's Little Bill, the cartoon character?
Did I not put it in the group? I put it in the group, didn't I, Adam? Yeah.
Who? What?
Yeah.
America's
Look,
weird,
Bill.
man.
It's called Bill.
Yeah.
I do also have to remember that I am now like 10, 11 years older than most of these people. So like, I still remember a time when I was like, yeah, well, I'm like 25. I'm like, yeah, he's just an older rookie. We're the same age. How crazy is that? He was a few years younger than me. Whereas now, obviously, I'm a little bit older than these guys now. Much like we said with the Eagles, Adam, targets on the back for these guys now. They had a dramatically better season than we thought they were going to do last year, with Jaden Daniels, obviously coming from LSU, was incredible. Absolutely phenomenal player, winning the Offensive Rookie of the Year. But now this team has put people on notice, hasn't it? And, you know, that sometimes isn't always the best when you're a team that is sort of still figuring itself out in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the expectations have become completely unrealistic for this team, where it's really difficult to. I think what people are doing is that they're looking at what they've done, and they've gone, well, they got to the NFC Championship game last year, and they've improved their roster. So therefore, in theory, they should kick on. I don't think they're ready for a Super Bowl at all. They're not. When you look at it, it's just, it would be pushing way too much. I like what they've done. I think the players that they've brought in are better quality than what they've lost. I know that we think that Deebo Samuel is maybe not quite what he was, but I think he's probably better than De'Ami Brown. I think that Von Miller and Dietrich Wise are probably better than Dante Fowler, who left. Javon Kinlaw and Jonathan Allen, probably say Jonathan Allen maybe a little bit better than Javon Kinlaw, but I think it's a fair comparison. They brought in Laramie Tunsil, which I think is huge for them. That's a massive win for Jaden Daniels and the O-line. And they drafted, I think they didn't have many picks, but they drafted pretty well. I like Josh Connolly out of Oregon. I think Trey Amos is a really good corner, and he was underrated. I think he was good. Obviously, as we've seen with Ja'Cory, Bill, Krosky-Merritt, it looks like he's going to be part of the running back rotation with him and Eckler, and I know Chris Rodriguez is there as well, but I think it's going to be, like you said, Krosky-Merritt and Eckler. It's the same coaching staff as last year, which I think is good. One thing that was really interesting last year, first 11 games, real heavy screen game, which is like typical Cliff Kingsbury, what he did with Kyler Murray and all that. But they did pivot away from that because everyone knew what they were going to do, and they were still successful, which a lot of people said that Cliff Kingsbury couldn't do. I think that's quite promising that you can see that, because it means that they can win in different ways, and I think that that's definitely a benefit for them. I like a lot of what they've done. I think they're going to do really well. I think that they are a playoff team. I think the idea of getting to the NFC Championship game is going to be tough for them, and if they don't get there, it shouldn't be considered a failure. I think they're one of these teams that's just, they went on a very, very good run at the end of last season and it all clicked. And like you say, sometimes you can fly too close to the sun, I suppose, and get burnt. So in the long run, so yeah, I think that's the issue for them. But yeah, they're still going to be a great team.
I think they may get burnt.
Yeah,
to be honest with you, I think
they'll drop down a bit.
My issue is I just think we've historically seen this now, Andrew, where we see a new player come in predominantly at quarterback and they just skyrocket to the moon. And we're like, wow, on this player. And we tend to see the second year, it just takes a little bit of a step back. It's not a negative. It's, CJ Stroud, it happened with him. Look how fantastic he was in their rookie year. Second year, it just took a step back a little bit. I worry for Jane Daniels. There may be that step back a little bit. Defenses know him now. We've got the film on him. He hasn't got as strong a run game as he had last year. Brian Robinson Jr., I think, is a very puzzling trade by the Commanders myself. They must really believe in old Bill over here. And then you've got the Terry McLaurin thing. Don't know what's going to happen with that. Debo, again, bit of an injury-prone wide receiver. Am I wrong in that? Am I making too much? I think Jane Daniel is phenomenal and will be phenomenal. I just think, let's take a deep breath here.
Yeah, I think they are better than the Cowboys and the Giants, but I think they're a long way from the Eagles. And when you're talking about the success they had last year, I think they're so far behind them. Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. There's now a year's worth of tape on Jayden Daniels, and Jayden Daniels from college to the NFL was a bit of an enigma because we were like, he runs the ball loads, but he's really slender, but he's got a good arm, and people hadn't quite seen that body type and that play. So when he played, there wasn't a lot of tape on him and he had a lot of success. Now there's going to be a full year's worth of tape. So defenses are going to be able to write up plays to be like, right, this is how we stop him this season. So I think there'll be a slight drop off in his play, but he's still going to be great. I also think Adam says he really likes all the moves they've done and he thinks they're really good. I'm puzzled by their moves, and I'm puzzled by them for the future because Terry McLaurin's old, Deebo Samuel's old, Zach Ertz is old, Austin Eckler's old, Von Miller's old, Bobby Wagner's old. They're like really old. They're like in their 30s, that's like past it. And I'm like, where's the future in that? Because you've got to replace so many people over the next 2 years. Jane Daniels is only on a rookie contract for so long before you have to start paying people. And they've brought in a lot of old people. And I'm worried if any of them get injured or not, is it going to be the same? And also the drop-off, I think, is they won a lot of games last year with fourth quarter, fourth downs. And it seemed like every fourth quarter, fourth down that they tried worked. And I think this year, if only half of them work, because they're fourth quarter, fourth downs to win games, I think that could be, let's say it happened in 4 games. I think that's 2 less games. If you say it's half of the time it works, 2 less victories. And I think that's what we could see. We could see 2 or 3 less victories than last year, but they'll still be a good team. I think they'll still be a good team. They'll still be competitive. They've got some good players. Yes, the old players that they've got will still be good this year. So I think drop off and maybe not, maybe in that wild card conversation and maybe miss out, or that's the 50-50 for me. And going forward for the future, I don't see a plan with how old they are. And they're not like incredible players, I think they could have spent a lot more money on some sort of 26, 27-year-olds and maybe had them for the future through this period with Jayden Daniels. So I think there is a drop-off. I think you're right there, Fred.
Yeah, I think when you say it like that, gosh, yeah, there is a lot of age. And what they've got, let's say they pick up the 5th-year option. So when's his contract up? We've got 4 years on 2024, 2028, 2029. They're going to sign him early. Let's call it 2027. You've got 2 years to really get that money out there, to get them players in. They made moves last year trading for Marshawn Lattimore and this Terry McLaurin stuff. And it's a bit like, and it's interesting with Terry McLaurin because it feels like a lot of it is he's asking to be traded or anything like that. But if I'm him, I'm looking at his team and thinking, this is the best quarterback I've ever had here.
He's only got 1 year left, hasn't he? He's got 1 year left on his contract, and they've just brought Deebo in on a 2-year and paid him.
Yeah.
So I think he's a little bit like, I've got 1 year. Like, can you pay me, please? You've just paid Deebo. Can you pay me? I think that's the issue there. I don't know how you can, a guy that's been on your team since you drafted him and been your superstar and
very underrated, I think.
How can you not be like, yeah, you're a lifer here. Let's pay you until you
Yeah.
want to, wind it down. I find that bizarre.
I think when we look, I've just gone back onto my notes and because it's just gone to the top. It's gone to what the Eagles bought in, and you go, Azeez Ojulari was on the table for you there. I think he would have fit really nicely, and he's a fairly decent age for the Commanders. You've got Josh Uche there as well, decent age, probably fits a bit of a need for you. Guy under Bobby Wagner, like. There was guys out there this offseason that were younger that they could have brought in and spent their money a little bit more wisely, maybe, and they haven't done that. And I just think these teams do take a bit of a step back. I think they were too good too soon last year in a way. And now it's like we're bringing back. And I have to be frank, I think they're very lucky to have kept the offensive coordinator. I think they were very lucky to keep Cliff Kingsbury in the offseason because there was a lot of teams that were sniffing. He really shone with that offense last year. And it did feel like we didn't say, we didn't say Dan Quinn was the head coach.
As a head coach, haven't we? It didn't go well.
Oh yeah, but it was sort of like whenever we talked about them last year, it wasn't Dan Quinn the head coach; it was Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury. It was like this tandem that we talked.
Yeah,
about.
I think he's a great offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he's a good head coach.
Well, we'll see what he does. I think there were some teams that were pretty desperate this season, and when they were looking for their coaches. Let's have a look at some predictions then. Who's coming bottom of this pack? I think I can probably speak for all of us when I think it begins with a C.
Cowboys, yeah, why not?
Yeah, I think the Cowboys
six
are
wins.
probably going to capitulate.
6 wins. I've got 7. I've got 7 and 10, which I think's a fair assessment. I've got the Giants next.
Yep.
8 and 9.
7, 8 wins.
8 and 9. Yeah. Then I've got the Commanders. How many games do you think they'll win, Adam?
I think the Commanders, you're probably looking at 10. As has been said, I think there will be a drop-off. As there is tape on Jaden Daniels, so that will create a bit of a drop-off. They are an older squad, but I think that I think overall they're a better roster. I think the whole point of going for these older guys is that it is a 2-year window that they're looking at before they sign up Jaden Daniels. I think that's the theory they're going down. But yeah, I do feel like they'll drop off and that they will win about 10. But I still think that's a good season for them.
Where did I've got them,
I can get them.
Where do their 10 wins come from, Adam? If you can pull up the, I think
I've got it here.
In my head, they're 10 wins, but they've got a tough schedule, and I can really only see sort of like 9 at the most.
I've got right in front of me. I've got they host the Giants at Green Bay, host the Raiders at the Falcons, at the Chargers, host the Bears at the Cowboys, at the Chiefs, host the Seahawks and the Lions, at the Dolphins by week 12, host Denver, at Minnesota, at the Giants, host the Eagles, host the Cowboys, at the Eagles to finish. I mean, that after bye, that's a terrible little run of games, that is. That's horrible.
I mean, you've got in-division games, which against the Giants and the Cowboys could easily be split 50-50.
I've got that.
They are better, but you could split them 50-50. I don't think they're better than the Packers. I think Raiders, Falcons, I don't think they're better than the Chargers. I think Bears is a 50-50 game. Better than Dallas. We've said split that. Kansas, I don't think. Seattle's a close call. We just spoke about them. Detroit, no. Miami, yes. Denver, no. Minnesota, you'd be pushed. Then you've got Philly. I don't think they beat Philly in either of those games. I think I've
got them losing both games, Philly.
So I think nine wins.
I think I mean, I get what you're saying. I think the point kind of stands that they just drop off, but they'll still be in second place. So.
I've got 9 wins. I've got 9 wins. So, and then I've also got the Eagles top. I've got them at 12-5 though. I think they do take a little bit of a step back as well, just because
they're going to be in some closer games, aren't they? I think that's fair. I think they top the division. I think their 12 wins is a good season still. So yeah, 12 is fine for me. It's a tough schedule. Do you think
Commanders getting on the wild card on 9 and 8?
I think
some will.
We've just said we think majority of the West are going to outscore
I do feel it's a difficult one though, because you've got the NFC North, obviously, which
Yeah.
are
So
kind
you
of
got
like big teams. So it will end up being like probably 7th spot if it is, because I think it's going to be tough for these teams to get in. But I think the Commanders have that potential to just sneak into it. And as I say, once you get into the playoffs, it's like anyone's game kind of thing. So I think that the concern for me is that if they don't get into the playoffs, everyone's going to overreact.
Mm.
And it's like, in a way, you shouldn't overreact, because you shouldn't have overreacted to what they've done, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's
A bit
like,
of let's all take a deep breath here.
yeah.
We did way better than we ever thought we were going to.
Yeah.
The
And I think
schedule
that,
is so much tougher.
yeah.
I think that's got to play into a factor when people are assessing them, that it is so much harder this year than what it was last year.
Yeah, exactly. Andrew, Adam, thank you very much for joining me on this episode, and thank you very much for watching this deep dive of the NFC East. Make sure you check out all of our episodes on YouTube and like and subscribe. They're also on all podcast platforms. Make sure you check out our social media platforms as well. Until then, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you all again very soon.